For 20 years, Pastor Jerry Clark has labored for the causes of the Israeli people. A native of Chicago, Pastor Clark first found his love of the nation when visiting Israel for the first time in 1997. In 2016, he was named as the Director of Interfaith Outreach for American Friends of Magen David Adom. And it's good to have you with us today, sir. Tell us a little bit about the organization and what caused you to kind of invest your life in being an ambassador.
My first trip was 1997, and I was hooked. I just was totally engrossed in everything and had that fire inside of me about Israel, and it grew and it grew. Since that time, my wife and I have been to Israel more than 70 times. Wow. By ourselves, with groups, leading groups, wow, hosting groups, et cetera, et cetera. In the course of all this, I started to do some research and investigation, and come to find out my grandmother was Jewish. So there's a connection there. And it just grows on you. It just grows. Every time people say, don't you get tired of going back and taking people? And I say no, because I love to see first-time people go and the excitement in their face. Yeah. And so it just grows. So this opportunity came about a year and a half ago. I was working with another not-for-profit in Chicago that also ministered to Israel for 11 and a half years, and I did all their church outreach. And then took time off to go back into full-time tourism. Well, things got a little rough in Israel, and tourism dropped off. And so then, you know, there's a saying, God closes one door, but he opens another one. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened here. So the American Friends of Magen David Adom is based in New York. It's part of a Friends Society all over the world. There are 18. Magen David Adom was founded as the emergency response service by the Knesset years ago. But the Knesset didn't provide for any funding. So technically, Magen David Adom is an NGO, a non-government organization. Thus, the Friends Societies are charged with raising the funds to provide the equipment, the training, the ambulances, everything that is needed to save lives in Israel. Wow. And that's every life, regardless of your background, your religion, your ethnicity. If you're in Israel, even as a tourist, as I was in 2014, I needed to call the ambulance, and I was in the hospital for 6 days. Thank God that ambulance was there.
And we see people from different parts of the country and even other countries. That's why it's called Friends of.
Friends of.
Talk about the connection between Americans and Israel and why it's important for us to continue to support.
Well, first of all, God has told us in Genesis 12:3, a verse that, you know, if you have any knowledge of Israel, you're going to know Genesis 12:3.
That's right.
Where God's speaking to Abraham, he says, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. And we see that happening today. So Christians, particularly evangelical Christians, really take that seriously. And they love Israel, they go to Israel, not because I believe they have a hidden agenda or a motive. They go because they truly want to show unconditional love to their Jewish brethren. And Paul says in Romans, we've gotten so much spiritually from the Jews. I mean, when you think of everything, the scriptures, our Messiah, we as believers owe it to them to bless them with material things. And so many of the people who support us from the Christian community will take this example of the little ambulance that I got to ride in 2014, not this little one, but a replica, but say this is the material thing that they can bless Israel with. This is something that they can, very tangible, and it touches the heart of the paramedics and the EMTs. When that ambulance rides down the street and on the side of the door it says, presented to the people of Israel by. Right. And it's the name of a ministry, it's the name of a foundation. Right. Whatever. Yes, name of a local church. Local church, individuals. And we have that. We have so many ministries that are sponsoring ambulances. The white one is the basic life support. And the yellow ones are larger. Those are the mobile intensive care units. And then we also have a third vehicle called a metacycle, which usually precedes the ambulance, particularly in Jerusalem. I've actually seen those in Jerusalem. Those go first because the streets, as you know, can be a little... Basically a motorcycle that's kitted out to for a first responder. Exactly. And typically the new program that's come over there is the Life Guardians program. We have over 14,000 trained and certified volunteers. And the example is this. You have a medical emergency, you call 101, which is the central dispatch. They immediately, who are you, where you're going, what's your condition, the motorcycle's on the way. But then there's a page sent to a life guardian who may live 2 floors above you. And that life guardian takes the bag and is at your door, starting the medical treatment. The motorcycle arrives, continues, and then the ambulance is right behind. So it's very, very sophisticated, and the technology is what's so exciting now in Israel, with all of the first aid responders. There's an app that's coming out, it is out, MyMDA. And the next time you go to Israel, I'm going to encourage you to download the app on your smartphone, put in all your vital medical information, and God forbid, God forbid something happens, you need medical attention.
Pastor Clark, I wanted to ask you, how much does even the basic ambulance cost?
$100,000. And they're built right here close, they're built in Elkhart.
Wow.
The ambulance is built in Elkhart and then shipped over to Israel on the boat from Baltimore. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get there. Sits in customs for a little bit, and then it's equipped and put into service. There's 1,100 ambulances in service right now in Israel. And every year we have to replace 100 of them.
Wow.
Because of the wear and tear.
Wear and tear, sure.
And we have to take them out of service after that time.
So for individuals or groups, churches, foundations that are interested in getting behind American Friends of Magen David Adom, they can sponsor an ambulance, or I'm sure they could sponsor part of an ambulance as well.
They can sponsor equipment. We have a whole list of equipment that's needed that we take care of. They give us a list every year. Here are the things we need. And then we do our best to raise the funds, and then we pay the bills. So that that piece of equipment that you bought is paid for.
It's paid for.
That money went where you wanted it to go. And that happens a lot. And then the other part of it is the Blood Services Center, where the blood is processed. And for $100, think of this, for $100 for a unit of blood, they'll process that blood and separate the various components into 3 areas, and 3 lives could be saved because of that one unit of blood. And it's the blood that connects everything. It's the blood that connects Judaism and Christianity. In Judaism, they talk about blood being the life. And they say if you save a life, it's as if you've saved the world. Well, in Christianity, we know it's the blood of Christ that has touched us. And again, from a personal perspective, I understand that very clearly, because years ago in Chicago, very seriously ill with internal bleeding, I had to have 12 units of blood that kept me alive. So I get that. I make the connection. Thus, that drives my passion for Israel. Because again, it's all about saving
lives.
A life. In Israel, as you well know, holy day is Shabbat. Many people observe the Shabbat. On Yom Kippur, most everything comes to a halt, except for one thing. If you have to save a life, you can break every religious law on Yom Kippur if it means that you're going to save a life. And that's what's important. That's why it's thrilling to me. I can have a small part in saving someone's life.
Wonderful. Well, I wanted to say thank you for joining us and sharing this exciting information, and I'll encourage our friends watching right now to connect with Pastor Jerry. You can go to savinglivesinisrael.org. That's savinglivesinisrael.org. Or as always, go to our website, harvest-tv.com. You'll find an easy way to link back to his site and become part of this fantastic organization that's not just touching lives in Israel, but in other parts of the world as well. Coming up later, Pastor Mark Lance with Connections. But up next, we're going to hear from Brian Bush. He joins us from the ancient Eastern Gate in Jerusalem with today's Holy Land Moment.